Today we're taking a ride through Copenhagen with Jesper Hill-Kjærsgaard, the CEO of Denmark's leading car subscription service, Dribe. He has played an influential role in Denmark's mobility scene, and today he's taking me to one of his favorite spots in Copenhagen, Langelinje. Or I think that's how it's pronounced. Along the way, we'll have conversation about the future of mobility. So buckle up and join the ride. Yeah, okay. Good hair? Hair check?
No, I was trying just, how tall am I?
So a lot of the industry is talking about asset heavy versus asset light in terms of the preferred business model for car subscription. What has Dribe's approach been?
We as a tech company or a concept company, we're asset light. I believe that our franchisees will be somewhat asset heavy. Maybe not in their actual legal entity, but then maybe in the group that they reside within. Because you need to capture as much as the uptake or the margin of that reselling value as you possibly can. I think an easy example of that is why you also see a lot of the rental companies now are actually, are making their own used car dealerships. Because there is not enough margin in their core business without, tapping in further into the vertical.
So they're introducing new revenue streams,
Yes.
Capturing more of their value
surrounding
chain.
the same asset.
Denmark is often considered a challenge in terms of mobility concepts, right? Why do you think that is?
There are two main reasons why it's difficult. There's a legislation around taxation on vehicles. So that means you become very static in the way that you actually finance the underlying asset of the car, meaning you aren't very flexible towards the end user. And therefore, doing a mobility product becomes different than just being customer centric, because you also have to adhere to the different legislations that can take you in one path that makes it non-attractive in regards to the holding cost of the vehicles of the cars, or B, can take you in another path that becomes very fixed towards the consumer. So it's like, you have the car for 3 months, you need to pick it up on Saturday at 12, bring it back in 3 months on Saturday at 11:59, and I have someone in Germany awaiting the car on the Monday.
Right.
So, and that concept is not customer centric, right? The customer becomes a medium to ensuring that you can make money on a resale of a car.
Asset, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think this goes pretty much for all countries, but we have pretty strict regulators in Denmark.
If you were to start Dribe over from scratch, what would you have done instead?
I would have taken some of that car passion that was within Dribe originally and removed that from the equation and gone super more consumer-centric, customer-centric. I think we've come to the realization, subscription is not for everyone, which is perfectly fine, it's fair. I think you need to target a narrower audience.
Can we expect to see Dribe in other countries coming up?
Most certainly.
Most certainly.
Yes. I can't disclose where I think we'll enter first. Of course, my preferences would be something that looks similar to the experience that we already have. Market-wise, legislation-wise. So I think it's a balance, right? And of course, it also needs to be a demographic or a culture in the respective countries. How's private leasing doing in this respective country?
Right.
If you have a country that's really, mature in regards to private leasing, they're probably going to be pretty ready to talk about a subscription-based service.
Right.
Digital is super important. Also, just because we do everything 100% digital, meaning onboarding and everything. So if a country doesn't have like a national ID that's fully digital and so on, it won't be as attractive of a customer journey. Then I also think, density, urbanization elements are super important. Because I don't think subscription services anytime soon will have a high penetration rate when you go out to the more rural areas or smaller cities or smaller towns.
What is something that excites you about mobility right now? You started off talking about how you have this massive passion for vehicles when you were a really young kid. Is there anything sparking that passion now?
Oh yeah. But it's not. It's more around the mobility thing, right? It's more about giving something to customers that's easy, accessible. That's convenient, a lot of the buzzwords that used in a lot of industries right now. But this whole thing of saying, how do you put that car in the background and the access to the car, in the front of the your need pyramid, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that is something that's really changing the game right now. Is how do you actually make these cars accessible, and maybe forget a little bit about what car you're driving, and then make the car a hygiene factor, right?
If you could say something to an OEM player watching, or a large dealership group, a leasing company, what would you say to them about the future of mobility?
I wouldn't presume to be so clever that I could advise them on many things, but I think it's going back to, let's try to look at the needs, right? Let's not try to look at how many buttons the car has, or moving a piece of metal. Let's instead try to look at how could you actually meet the needs of the customers in the most attractive, convenient, price-sensitive way. How could you narrow all the choices? How could you remove the anxiety that buying a car or even leasing a car for a 3-year presents? And I think that requires an outside-in perspective. And I think right now we continue just to see more and more initiatives that are still inside out. Driving the car that we're driving around now, there's probably a million ways to spec this car. And I think we'll see the consumers of the future, probably not me, I still like to spec it, there's a reason the seats are this color and so on. But I think the consumers of the future, you'll see, you need to remove all of that. You need to make, their life simpler. And buying a car is complicating life significantly, both in choices, in commitment, like all of these elements. And I think those are some of the factors that we'll see play strongly into effect in the coming generations. So, Jordan, we've actually arrived at the Lange Linje. You asked me to take you to a spot that was special to my heart. I've lived here for over 10 years, just 50 meters from here. And this is somewhere where I've spent a lot of hours walking around.
Well, thank you. This has been a really cool drive around Copenhagen, such a beautiful city, and you have been extremely entertaining and insightful, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cool, let's go see the Little Mermaid.
Let's do it.